This is it. It's part 2. I'm going to have to fix some lighting here. So, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thanks for being here. It's good to have you. Unfortunately, my key lights are... they're bugging me. So I'm going to fix them real quick. Because 1 minute I look like Casper the Ghost, and I'm already pale enough as it is. I tan like you wouldn't believe. I tan like a tomato. So, there we go. That's a little better. Good evening. This is part 2, more Ansible stuff. I have a sticky note because I forgot to mention this morning. Couple of updates for you. Number 1 is I've got some info I'm going to show you. Let me find the right one. So I'm going to show you this because we've got some stuff going on with the forums. They're going to be updating. They're going to be going to a read-only mode effective October 1st. Alan's scrambling right now. He's trying to figure out how to at least keep the community aspect of, the communication and the interaction, with Ruckus and the customers alive. So he's looking into that. We'll definitely look into some of that stuff and see what we can figure out to really kind of get something sorted. So as I have updates on that, I will provide them in the intro to the podcast. I'll provide them here so that you have them, just so everybody has info, because I don't want to leave you in the dark or in the lurch, and I know that there's concerns with that, so they're really scrambling. Okay, so, excuse me, couple other things. Let's see, this is really driving me bananas. I'm not gonna mess with this for long, I promise. Oh, that might just turn me into an orange. This is where you're saying, come on, man, you should have done this before you started, but it was brighter. Whoa. This is weird. Anyways, so IPv6 we did last week. I have a little update on that. I know that we had some weird nuanced stuff with it towards the end because we were using point-to-point links. And we used /126s for the prefixes, and it wouldn't work. So DHCP v6 wouldn't work, and it was a little bit of a bummer. But I know why. So Brian, Stewart, and I, we sat down and went through it and looked at it in depth, and we also worked with Vu from support, Vu and Brian are brilliant. They're awesome to work with. And here's what we discovered. So Ruckus did an amazing job with the IPv6 implementation when they wrote it, because we actually wrote it to the RFC. Okay. There's an address in every prefix that is an anycast address to make it really, really simple. And the way in a v6 prefix it works, let's say we take a /126 and we start at 0. So we use 0 as the prefix address. It's not usable on the link. Then we go 1, that's a v6 address. 2, right smack in the middle of it, is the anycast address. And 3 is a normal address. So for ping to work across the 126 link, you need to use 1 and 3. So don't use that address right in the middle. 0 is the prefix address, so you're not going to be able to configure that on an interface anyways. And then you use 1 and then you use 3. So you have to kind of skip when you do it. But nothing wrong with that. It's fine. It just makes it a little bit more of a challenge. So the reason it does that and it causes problems is because when you turn around and look at how DHCP works, and it works this way with v4 and it works this way with v6 as well. The DHCP server has to unicast the address to a destination somewhere, and the request comes from the egress point-to-point interface coming out of that device. So it's going to source from whatever IPv6 address is configured on that point-to-point link. And so what we learned is when you use the anycast address, you can't unicast to an anycast address. So the DHCP server would receive the request just fine. It would send it back. It would receive it as a unicast, and it would see you later. So that's what was going on with that. That's why. It's just one of those things we have to be aware of. We have to understand where our anycast addresses are when we do that. So yeah, I know a lot of people use /64s on point-to-points. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to narrow it down that way, you can absolutely do that. Hey, Brian is here. Cool. Good to see you, Brian. Yeah, it's the second highest address in any v6 subnet. And so that's the reason behind it. So if you run into that, that's why. And now you know. Let's see what else. There was one other thing I was going to talk about before we got rolling, and I can't remember what it was. So it must not have been that important. Yeah, I'll have to think about it. I almost live streamed us fixing that last week just because I thought it would be kind of fun to do it. And it would have been recorded so you could see it. But we went through, we tested it, we changed all the configs, tested it back and forth. Ping worked across the link, DHCP worked across the link. It was actually great. So, yeah, so there you go. You know what I know about it now. So, okay. All right, so we're going to talk about... Actually, I don't want that in there because I'll start yelling. I don't have a monitor. We're going to talk about Ansible with ICX. And some things that we should really kind of lay out there. I'm going to show you the complete process. So I'm going to install Ansible on a CentOS 7 box that I have. We'll install it. We'll pull the modules in that are ICX specific. Barath was on the stream this morning. He and his team have gone through and done an amazing job of putting that stuff together. I know engineering has worked very tirelessly on this stuff to bring it, to the forefront, and it's great. It's also version 1, so there are certain limitations for things we can't do right now, but I'll go into that in more detail. So, a lot of this is really surrounding what's the best way to manage your network, and there's not a cookie cutter answer for that. There's just not. There's so many different tools that we can use. Is Ansible the right thing if you need to go in and, add an interface description on one interface and one device? Probably not. I mean, just SSH into it, dump the config in, go home, go about your day, right? Now, if you need to do something like when we'll do this, if you need to create a banner message of the day in all of your devices, a huge list of them, is Ansible the right place to do that? Yeah, it makes sense. It's a great tool to use. So we really have to look at what we're trying to get out of the management piece of it and make sure that we're managing it effectively, correctly, wisely, right? Because a lot of these tools, their intention is to make our lives easier, but they can also make it more complicated too. Take for example, you can manage your ICXs within SmartZone now. And that's an awesome tool to have. It's great. So there's different things that you can do with it. And so I think having, the tools available to us, and Brian said this perfectly this morning. He said a carpenter's only tool is not a hammer. And he's absolutely right. I mean, we always talk about how you have a toolbox, and us as, educators, or if you're sitting down trying to, bring somebody up to speed and teach them the ropes with networking, give them all the tools they need. It does not hurt anybody. It makes it better. It makes it easier, more manageable. So, okay. I am by no doubt, I'm not a Linux expert. Okay. I know enough to be dangerous. I mean, I've been working in it for a long time. I can manage it. I can deal with it. I can install things. Not an expert. So if we get tripped up with certain things, I do have 2 instances of it in a snapshot. So I have one where it's not installed, and I have one where it's installed and working. So it worked fine this morning, but if it happens to blow up for some reason, I may just dump it in there and move to that snapshot and be done with it, just because it's simpler. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just at least want to show you the easiest way to get Ansible installed, get the packages pulled in, done. You know what I mean? So we'll be good to go there. Okay. I'm going to use 2 different tools when we do this. I'm going to use it's called Royal TS. It's what I use to manage all of my connections to ICXs, remote desktop, SSH sessions for CLI. I'll use that. I'm also going to use a tool called Visual Studio Code, and that's because it's a really awesome editor. And again, a huge shout out to Joe Abbe, who showed me this tool. He writes code, he deals with it all the time, and it's an awesome remote management tool. I'm obviously not sponsored by any of this. I'm just telling you, if these are tools, if you need tools to kind of help you with this stuff, these are killer tools that you can do. So that's the 2 things I'll be working in. I can change the font sizes for Royal TS, should be big enough to where you can see them. But the font sizes in Visual Studio, I can't change or increase. So if you can't see it, or if it's hard to see, all you have to do is let me know. I'll just move to the other program, make sure that you can see it, because that's really all I care about. Okay. But that's where we're going to start. So we're going to start in not Firefox. That's where I am. We're going to start in that guy, because it's purty. All right. So yeah, thank you, Brian. You're the man. It is free. It's very simple to set up. It's an awesome remote editor. It's colored, so it's really cool. So I'm a fan of it. So you can easily kind of track where you're going. And a lot of these files, I mean, when you look at, if you've worked in Linux at all, you deal with config files. They're huge. I mean, the sizes of them are massive. You have to go through and search and find and move things and take multiple lines out. And some people are great with VI and some people are great with Nano. And, you know, this just makes it a kind of a graphical interface you can use and make it simple. And I'm sure that the Linux diehards would, you know, maybe snicker at me for it, but I'm okay with that. Because like I said, I'm a novice when it comes to it, and I have no issue with that. So, okay. All right, that's not the one I want to be on. I want to be on this one. And I'm going to have to reconnect to it. All right, here we are. So, I'm going to do this as me. I'm going to forget to type sudo 1,000 times, but this server is set up. It has SCP running. I feel like that mic is too close. SCP is running on it. Ansible is not installed. So the first thing that we need to do, because if we pull in, if we try to yum install Ansible, it won't work because we haven't updated the EPEL release. So you just do a sudo yum install, and I'll just do a Y flag on it. So it basically says, okay, yes to everything. We'll pull it in. Once you do that, it's simple. It's sudo yum install Ansible. Now, when you do this, Ansible is going to pull in, it's going to download Python and Ansible, and it'll install them. So everything you need to make Ansible work, we now have. It's there. We're done. We can pull modules in. If we're that savvy, we can start to write our own. We can go through it, go gangbusters, have fun with it. So it's pretty slick. I mean, we need to create host file. We can modify the config file if we want, which we will do. I'm going to show you an example of why you want to do that. Okay. But here we are. We have it. So it's there. Find everything in cd etc Ansible. And if we do a list, it just shows us this. We have a config file, host, and then roles. And that's it. And I don't think anything is in roles. Nope, nothing's in there. Okay. Now what we need to do is we actually need to pull in and download. Oops, I didn't mean to do what I just did. We need to download this. And according to Baroth today, who was very kind to inform me that what you find on GitHub for our Ansible modules is going to be probably further up to date than what's on the download site for our support portal. There will be some increase in the amount of time it takes to do that over time. But I think right now, because Ansible modules are coming out so quick and TechPubs is already buried with trying to publish everything that they're publishing for all 3.5 million of our products and software releases, it's just a little bit difficult for them, I guess is the best way to put it. So this is where I would pull this from, and all I did is I just went in and under code, I just downloaded the zip. It's on my desktop locally, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to oops, I just hit the wrong thing. Hold on. I'm going to go in here because I have an SFTP connection to it, which I probably have to reestablish here. Let's do this real quick. Go in here. We've got it. So we're going to jump into, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this into the Ansible directory. And really all I'm worried about are these modules right here. I'm pretty certain. Well, you know what? Let's be safe just to be sure. This Ansible 2911 tar-gz, if you want to compile this from source and do a make and make install and go through and install Ansible that way, you can. Just doing the EPL release and everything else, it works fine. I've had no issues with it. It's worked perfectly fine. So there's no issues with it, but I'm just going to delete those real quick and extract this. Just so we have a fresh copy. Okay. And here we go. We have playbook examples, and this is really what we want. We want all of this, and I just want to move this into that directory and kind of overwrite what's already there. So I'm going to go up, and then I'm going to come back in here and just pull it again. And it's probably going to complain that there's a... I want to override them all. Yes. Yes. And we'll let it upload, and everything's there. So cool, we're there. Now we can just jump back into our CLI here. Do a list on it, and everything's there. It's beautiful. Looks amazing. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to do with this is we need a host file. So if we look at the host file, this is essentially what Ansible is going to use to kind of do the challenge and release piece, or the challenge accept authentication piece, to communicate with everything. You can do the keys, and you can have keys installed to make that easier as well, so you're not having to fight with it. But the other thing is you still have enable passwords that you have to deal with. So that enable password isn't going to be, you know, SSH keyed, I guess is the best way to put it. So you're still going to have those credentials. Okay. But what I did earlier is I have in this one, I'm going to have to reconnect to this one. I have an existing one. And I actually want to just kind of pull this, because if I show you, this is a host file that I built, and I did this for time, but it shows you can have groups. So your variables for everything is become the SSH user is Ansible become yes, and then SCP remote user, SCP remote pass, and then you have these variables you can put in there as well if you want. I have them commented out because I don't need to use them. But I'm going to show you one tweak. I missed this one this morning, and when I copy and paste this in there, I'll show you. Sudo nano hosts. Of course. Okay, I'm going to take everything that's in there out because I don't care about it. And I have them in groups. So I have, you know, we'll do... Oh, it's not going to let me go up that far. Scrolling. So I have the data center in there, and then I have Corp 1 and Corp 2. So I have these different sites and these different devices. So if I want to sit down and just focus on Corp 1 and do something there, I can. And I'll show you the neat logic that's built into this, to where if I want to make the same change globally at that point, it'll branch out and it'll actually compare if it's been done to that device already or not, if it exists. And if it does, it'll just skip them and say, okay, we're not changing that one. So it's pretty cool. But one thing that was missed here was... Ansible _ and my password wasn't very complicated. Okay, so that's it. So right now, as it looks, we can kind of make this thing fly and do it. So what I'm going to do is, the first thing I want to do is I want to take and I want to pull this up real quick. So this is Visual Studio Code. And I'm remotely connected to the server, the Ansible live server. And I want to just go in and pick one of these files, and I'm modifying this file here. When I save it, it pushes that change to the server. So what I do here, as long as I save it, it'll be updated there. But one thing that I kind of struggled with this earlier, and what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to make this, to start with, I'm going to do it Corp 1. Just to show you this, okay? All of these credentials exist everywhere. Okay, so as far as hosts are concerned, I'm just using that group that's in brackets. And that makes it really super simple, okay? But I want to take, and I actually want to make one of these plays work in here, okay? So what I want to do is I want to push out a banner message of the day, and this is multi-line. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to hammer that down and say, welcome to Ruckus Live. Please be nice. Okay. Now, I don't need any of that in there. Oh, did I just delete something I didn't need to? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. And I'm going to save it. Pretty hard, huh? So let's take this play and push it. It's going to just focus on the Corp1 site. We'll see if it pushes it out. We'll verify it, make sure everything works, and then we'll go from there. I could run it from here, but I'm going to run it in this other host just to make sure that you can see the syntax that I'm using. Okay, so we're going to do Ansible. Whoa. Ansible playbook, and then we're going to do playbook banner.yaml, and we're going to run it. And there it goes, off and away. So it just kind of works in the background and does its thing. Oh, but we got an error. Okay. Now it's saying it failed, but we need to figure out where it failed and why, right? Well, typically you could look for your logging settings. I mean, it might be in. I mean, the first place I would look is in var log messages, but obviously I'm not special enough to see that without sudo. Yeah, and it kind of shows the banner invoked it, but it doesn't really give you anything else. So let's look at the Ansible config. I'm cheating, I already know the answer to this, but if we search for log, it'll have a log path right here, var log Ansible, okay? Uncomment it so it starts to log there so we can see what's going on. Now if we run, that play again, I want it to fail because I want to look in the log and I want to see why it failed, like what's actually happening to it. So now we can go in and do a more var log Ansible. Ooh. Hey, why are you cheating? Oh, I know why. Oh no, it's there. Am I reading that path wrong? No. Is not writable and we cannot create it. Well, that's a first. So root, so oops. Okay, we'll create it and see if it'll let it write it then, I guess. That didn't happen this morning. Yeah, it's still not writable. Okay, well, I'm going to make you writable. What the what? Oh, I swear, every time we do this, something new and different pops up, and I don't know why it's not letting me. Well, what about this? This might kick it. It's writable now. I run it as root. Okay, so we got the same thing at all. It failed again. So now what we need to do is more var log ansible.log. And we can go through here and see why it failed. So we get all of this additional information, which is really what we're looking for because we want to know what just happened. Like, why is it not working? So it's saying user auth is okay. Authentication successful. User auth is okay. Successful. And then fatal. End of file sent. I have to kind of do some log deciphering here. So I liked all that. Authentication password successful. User auth is okay. Password successful. End of file and transport thread shut down complete. Well, there's definitely one way we need to look at this and see if this host, if we can even SSH to it successfully, right? So let's do this. SSH Ansible at, and we'll use that username and password, or that IP address. Okay, and we'll enable, and then we'll do... Oh, that's why. I guess the thing that's got me stumped right now, it's not taking our enable password. This is our enable password, and I'll show you why that is, because if we look at more playbook, what was it, banner? If we look, it's going to show us our enable password that it wants to use is this, right? So it tripped on that. I guess the thing I'm having a hard time understanding is why it's not telling us that that password failed. Doopy-doopy-doo. It should be in here somewhere. Unless maybe I'm just not seeing it. Client Mac, follow false. So that's all the SSH exchange. Authentication password successful. I'm not misreading it. Socket path does not exist. Huh. Brian, that's really interesting because we didn't see that this morning, did we? Okay, well, we're going to fix it. So we know what the problem is. We know that our enable password is incorrect. Enable super user password. Yeah, that first one is just the SSH for the user. The enable pass failing never actually failed, so I don't know why it doesn't report that back. I guess I'll have to at least inform engineering about it that it just fails at that point, right? Because that's all we see in the log. Successful. Channel 0 opened. Okay. EOF sent. EOF and transport thread shut down complete. Fatal failed. And I mean, the Ansible facts piece here is kind of a clue, because if we look at the playbook, you know, these are the facts, right? So these are the facts that we're dealing with. Yeah, a command interpreter. You're right, because it's outside of the authentication piece of it there. So that's why it's doing that. It's just a little confusing, I guess. So we're going to do this as lab123. I'll go ahead and change this one as well. Enable super lab 1, 2, 3. I like that one. And enable super lab 1, 2, 3. Again, like I tell you every week, do not use my password examples. All right, let's try that playbook again. And see what happens. Ooh, that looks fancy. I like it. All right, so here's what we get. We get an output and it says that these 3 hosts were changed. So those are the only 3 we were worried about. Get the message, Ansible facts discovered. So Python was there, changed true, commands. This is the command that it sent. Did it fail? No. Okay, next device. Same thing. This is the command it sent. Okay, this piece. Change true. This is the command it sent. So everything looks good there. Only thing we have to do now to test it is, what is this? We're going to SSH to it, Ansible at 10.175.4.154. Hey, look at that. Our message is there. It took it. Oops. Ha! Cool, it's there. It took it. So everything looks good. So now this is the really cool part about this. This is what I like. If we do a playbook banner YAML, let's say we took just a small subset of sites that we wanted to do this, or a small section of devices like we just did. Now we're comfortable with it. We're going to change this to all and say, all right, go out and do it to everybody now. And we run it. This is what I really like about this. It has the logic built in to see if it's already there. And if it is already there, it's not going to change it. So those three, it came up right away, they're okay. The next one, it's going to change all of them. So because none of them have that banner. So it's pretty slick. Server 23 failed. Why? Okay. 10.175.4.23. That would be why. Oh. Excuse me. Command not found. All right, it's on this one. Oh, I'm not even connected to that. I think I know why this is there. I just have to get to something that has Telnet installed on it, which is really stupid to begin with, but we're going to do that because this is a lab and Telnet's open. Let's see why. Okay. I think I know why. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but I could be wrong. Maybe I am wrong. That's... Aha, there it is. That might be a problem. I don't know why that's in there. So now, what's the best way to do this, right? We want to add the banner. Well, what I would do, honestly, just to kind of go through this is banner.yaml. I would just change it to use the host, the IP address that was left out. Let it change it, and now we're done. So it shows that you can just do it on any individual device if you want to. So SSH Ansible at 10.175.4.23. Okay, explain that to me. How did Ansible just successfully change it using SSH and mine just failed? Oh, there we go. All right, it just took a minute. Okay, but it's there. It took it, right? So now let's take it a step further. And in the banner file... Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on. I saw the sudo and I got excited. Oh, okay, so now... This is all here. It looks good. We're going to set the banner on there. We could also set an exec banner on here if we wanted to. And I'm going to do this because I'm going to show you just how finicky YAML is, I guess, which is something that I probably shouldn't say out loud, but it's fine. So we're going to take this back. You have to have these things lined up. Okay. Ugh, I don't even know how I want to do this. Banner should be under the X. Okay, that should work. We're going to try this for all of them. So we're just going to add... Oh, wait. Hold on. I didn't do that right. We should add something into the banner. Oh, and another thing, don't use tabs. YAML hates tabs, so use spaces in here. And when I say hate tabs, it'll fail parsing the files, so you have to use spaces in here. Use only alien mind control warning. I don't know. I'm not an alien nut, but it sounds fun. All right, so we have a message in there. Now let's run this bad boy again. And let's see what it does, because we have multiple plays in here now, right? We have two different things that we're going to do. It's going to look and see if the incoming banner is there, and then it's going to check and see if the exec banner is there. So I'm curious to see how it does this, if it does it one play at a time. So yeah, let's see what happens. Yep, it does it. It threads it, so it does one at a time, which is really cool. Yeah, and Brian's absolutely right. Indent by one more space on any line following a colon, because it is really that finicky. So, all right, awesome. So it changed it. So let's see what happened here. Ansible at 10.175.4.151. Okay, there's message 1. Enable. There we go. And we got our other banner too. So it worked great. Man, we're cooking with fire, boys and girls. I love it. Okay. So now I want to do one more thing, and we're going to... Which one was it? Maybe a couple more. I mean, we can play with any of these playbooks that we want, really. It's fine. There's all this different stuff in here. Let's do the playbook facts first. So more playbook facts. Well, this thing is pretty much... Oh, it'll gather subnets or gather interfaces. So yeah, let's toy with this one. You know, playbook facts. We're going to tell it all. Okay. Oh. I almost feel like you could make a drinking game out of this. Like, how many times is Matt not going to type sudo? Sudo Ansible playbook. Playbook facts. Let's run it. So with this, because we're gathering facts, it's basically show commands. It wants to show and see what's in there. This is going to pull it and basically just dump the output into your screen. If your buffer isn't 189 million lines long, you're not really going to have a way to go back and pull it, and your log file is going to get really, really big, really, really fast. So because it's going to pull facts on every single interface in the entire environment, okay? And when it does that, one thing we can do is you can always pipe that out to a file so that you have it. And this is for an example. I mean, you might want to be showing, hey, I need to see versions. Like, what software version is everything that I have running, and do they match, right? So it's just a way to go in and collect this, but as you can see, it's a really long output. And this should show us... yeah, it's actually showing us the version of it. It's running 8090G, and I think it probably shows that for every device. But the problem is it's kind of buried in there. So if we look, I don't even know if the show version is in here. Subset default, hardware facts, config facts, interface facts. You could gather all the facts. But when you do it, just keep in mind whether you're the Linux guru or not, just do a caret out to, not a caret, that's greater than. I don't know. Anyways, we'll do it facts.text. Man, my brain is not firing on all cylinders today. Chevron. I'm using that one because I'll remember it. I just know the greater than is it's always towards the one that it wants to eat, right? Or I guess that, whatever. Anyways. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that either. That's really odd. I know, sudo. Can't take a drink yet. Really? Again, another strange issue that pops up that we did not have this morning. I don't know why my file permissions got so jacked up on here. Huh. All else fails, just open it up to the world and again, watch anybody that's a Linux administrator have a heart attack watching it. And I'm like, no, don't do that. That's terrible. But it'll take a while. And I didn't run it in the background because it'll return my command prompt out once it's done doing it. Yeah, 777 is always my last ditch panic mode. Oh no, it's not working default. So it's working. So yeah, it's just odd. We didn't have to do anything with, like, it was creating files and everything. I just rolled the snapshot back earlier today to make it just a base config. So I don't know what it's flipping out about, but whatever. I'm going to let it do its thing. Yeah, there it is. So now we can just do a probably sudo more facts. And then we get the entire output of what just happened. So instead of it spitting it out on the screen, we have this, we can go back and reference it, and it makes it really simple, slick, and easy, okay? All right, a couple more things. So when we talked about the best way to kind of manage this network and things that we need to do, config backups is a big one, right? We have to have a config backup repository. You can set this up in a cron job. You can have it roll every night. You can roll the files, whatever you need to do. Super slick, right? But we have a playbook for it. And it's the copy. It's the more playbook copy. And I like this one a lot because it lets you copy, you know, upload primary flash to the SCP server or download flash from the SCP server. Now, when I talked about this is version 1, the modules are version 1, there is a roadmap out there for things that will be added into version 2. Software upgrades will be in version 2. The reason being, currently right now within SCP, you can't upgrade via manifest files. And this is my take on it, right? If you're going to remotely access the CLI on the device, you should use SSH. It's encrypted. If you're going to copy configs in or out of the device, you should use SCP because it's secured. If you're just transferring software, TFTP is fine. So I think that's the module that they're using, where you can just TFTP the manifest file in and you're done. Don't quote me on that. That's something that I would have to let engineering speak to. And I really try not to speak for them because, you know, they have different limitations. So what they're doing with it, we'll be able to look at that and play with that when that comes about. But it'll be really cool because we can just go in and dump software out to a subset of devices and be done and we're good. But this will actually let us copy upload our running config to the SCP server, and it's this one. And this is the one that I want to toy with. But we have to tweak some things because we want them to go into a specific directory. And then also I want to tweak it to where it doesn't just... I want to see if this works. So there's a couple of... what are they called? They're going to be... There's a couple things with the host file that I want to play with. So right now it's just an IP address. So if we run this command, it's going to upload everything and it's going to be the IP address. I want to actually play with the Ansible commands that allow us to go in and tweak what the host name is. And we would do this in our host file. So I'm going to change a couple, but I'm not going to go bonkers with it because the one thing I don't know, this is going to use SCP. So I want to kind of look and see what, I don't know how this does it because I don't know if it's using, well, let's find out. So let's do this. Sudo nano hosts. Let's go down here to corp1 and we're just going to call this dist1 and we're going to call it Ansible SCP host equals. I think that's it. I'm gonna guess and say that's it. That should be it. Okay, so that's part of it. So I want to do that. We'll do this. Whoa, come on, wake up. We'll do corp1 dist2 Ansible SCP. Whoa. Okay, and corp1 access 1 Ansible SCP. Woo. Host equals. Okay. Let's try that. Now what I want to do is in the playbook, I want to tweak it, but I need to set the remote destination so that it goes to the right place. So we're going to do sudo nano. And we're going to upload this config. And I think that's where it goes. We're gonna see. So remote file name was, what did I use for that today? It was, did I use destination or did I use, I have to go back and look at the VOD. Pub upload. There was a command that I used. Hang on, I have a cheat sheet. Don't judge me. It was inventory hostname is what I was looking for. So we're going to see if that works. We're going to do some fancy quotes. Inventory. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Dang it. Remote. That's why I keep this thing up. It was remote file name. And then it was pub upload inventory hostname. And then we need the server IP, which is this server 10.175.4.47. All right, let's see what happens. You ready? Are your fingers crossed? Okay. If this does not work, it will tell us why, so we can go in and tweak it. But we want to do copy. Skipping no hosts matched. I had to use, hold on a second. Again, I warned you I'm not a Linux expert and I'm not an expert here. I think it was remote. Destination was pub upload. That's why it didn't work. It's because I didn't change this. We're going to just swing it and see what happens with all. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, so we have a line that's off. That's what this is telling us. Task name. It didn't like that there. Yeah. So it doesn't like where the name's at. So I guess that means everything has to go over 1, right? Nope, it still doesn't like where that is. So then maybe it has to come over more? Grumble, grumble, grumble. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use this. Copy. I want to see... See, I thought this had to be lined up under... Nope. Name is too far over. It needs to be underneath... Basically needs to be under the H and host, so it needs to be lined up with these. I thought I just did this though. Because if we look at this, this is lined up right under tasks. I kind of wonder if these need to be over one. Okay, it's saved. Let's see if we can get this thing to go now. Nope. Line 14. Well, that's great. I already know that. Thank you for... Oh, sorry, I ran that in the background. You couldn't see it. Line 14 it doesn't like. I guess that considers everything else in there a comment, so it's going to be the first one in it. Gosh darn you. So there's only 2 in it. Oh, wait a second. I think that's it right there. There's a typo right there. Oh, I need to be in the right. Yep. You're absolutely right. And it's even color coded, and I still missed it. I love to tell my son, I say, you know what? Computers are really smart. They do exactly what you tell them to. Okay, protocol SCP. Oh, I know what it is. I have this jacked up now because I was messing with the formatting wrong. See, it's really picky. YAML's really picky about that format. So that's saved. Let's try it again. Now, what I'm really curious about is how the file names end up in that file. So the ones that we gave an Ansible host name to, I'm really kind of curious to see, oh yeah, see it updated, it's going to use their name. So that shows you that difference. Oh wait, unsupported parameters. Oh, interesting. So they all failed. Download protocol, public key, remote file name, remote pass, remote port. So that's where this has to go. Okay, so this tells us what happened to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this right here. I'm just going to cut it out of there. We'll put it right there. We'll take this out. We'll save it. Okay, so it's just saying that what the remote destination that I had in there was incorrect. Oh, the other thing is the IP address that I have in there is incorrect too. Okay, so, Yeah, module remote destination. So it didn't like that one. So yeah, it's much better now. So let's give it a shot again and see what it does. And I can actually push this up a little bit so you can see it better. Let's see what happens here. Get rid of that. I like it. It's looking good. That's what I was really curious about, because I like to have, when I go in and look, I mean, if you end up with 100 devices in here that you're backing your configs up to, you don't know what the IP address means. I mean, you're not going to correlate that in your head right away. If it's 10 or 15 devices, it's probably easier. Yeah, but is it in the right location? And Brian, you're absolutely right. We're about to find out, because I don't know. So I think it is. It should probably put it there correctly. Oh, socket path does not exist or cannot be found. So it failed on those. Yep, it didn't like those names. I'll have to toy with that a little bit and see if I can figure out why. But, I mean, the files are there and intact. 151. Oh. But you can see the files are there. Type that. Oh yeah. So cool. You can see them there. They're there. You know, the files are there and they're intact, which is really good. It just did not like in our inventory file. It doesn't like, or host file. It doesn't like these variables. And that's why I kind of wonder if the fatal piece on it was, let me see if I can get to it again. False message. There might be more information in the log. Let me do it on a bigger screen so we can see. How do I see the last 100 lines in the log file? Hang on. Yeah, I think you're right. Silent retry. I want to see lines in. Let's see where it's at in here. Yeah, it doesn't really give much additional information on it, does it? It's pretty much the same message. Nope, couldn't do it. Sorry, dude. Because that one that it failed on is... Which one? Oh, yeah, it's that name. So I wonder if it's trying to use that name to SSH to it. Yep, I think that's... You're exactly right, Brian. That's what it's trying to do, so... I get it. It makes sense. I'll have to work on that a little bit and see if we can't clean that up. Because there might be more... Let me look. There may be more to this playbook, too. It could be... I wonder if you could do... Remote file name... There's got to be a way to do that. I just don't. I'd have to sit down and Google it, and I'm not going to bore you to death with it. But yeah, it's pretty slick that you can do that. What else do we have in here? Logging, so we can set logging hosts up if we need to. Ping. Let's see what this does. So we can ping 2 hosts and get some outputs. We can ping with a size, get some outputs. Yeah, that's pretty slick. I like it. We can add some static routes if we need to. We can probably run this one because I don't think it's going to cause any issues. I mean, I can route to those subnets all I want. It's not going to hurt anything. So we have them. So again, we'll just go in here. Ansible playbook. Playbook. Static route. Yep, I think you're right. That's exactly what you would do. And you just have to correlate them back and forth. I didn't extensively test it today because I had a minor outage, which was actually a major outage. I lost my lab server. We lost the motherboard in it. So the lab team saved my bacon and got it swapped out for me real quick today and made that possible. So I kind of got my back up against the fence before I could really sit down and do it. Oh, it's still going to complain about those ones. Oh, wait. Unsupported parameters. I take that back. It's going to complain. Aggregate, check running config, mask. Oh. Next hop, prefix. Wait, what? Compare supported. Oh. I think what it's saying is it's saying this compare line right here. It says false. This is saying that the module compare, its supported parameters include these. That's it. So you could do... I guess we could just do compare, check running config. Let's maybe try that and see if that's really what it's complaining about. Because it didn't like that. Let's see what happens. I don't even know what this thing's adding. Nope. Compare. It doesn't like what's in compare. So you know what, Brian, I think you're right. In compare, I think instead of with this prefix... that's really odd. That, I guess the way this is kind of put together, it's configuring one. I guess, you know what? What are we comparing? Like, we're not comparing anything, right? Watch, this will really break it. That's gonna be like, no, you can't take things out of this. That's not how this works. I guess we're gonna find out, so. I probably should have done this on a smaller subset of devices. Just so it'll run a little bit quicker, but yeah, we're gonna kind of see what happens here and see if it works without that compare piece in it. Now it'll complain about state, you watch. Oh, nope, it did it. It's gonna configure them. So now what I wonder is, what if we said, I want to remove a static route? Yeah, it fails on those ones, but that's fine. We'll SSH into 152. Oh, actually, it looks like it didn't run anything. It's just saying that these commands weren't ran. So Ansible at 10.175.4.29. It did not add a static route. It added absolutely nothing. It said everything succeeded, but it didn't actually add anything. Oh, that's funny. Okay, let's see if we can figure out why. And it's saying false, so is it just looking to see if it's there? Prefix next hop, state absent. Yeah, and I would think the prefix and the mask needs to be 2 lines too, but I think it's just using the prefix for like the entire, this is your entire prefix. It's all encompassed in one. It's kind of how I'm taking that. Just because you would do config t IP route 192.128.2.0/24 space and then the next hop. But the absent here is what's kind of got me tripped up a little bit. So let's see what happens if I do present. And then I'm going to change this to just do it on Corp 2. Corp 2. See what happens. I think, I mean, I would have to sit down and have a dictionary of what all of the actual arguments are for everything. Oh, see there, it changed it. So now what I wonder, okay. Yeah, yep, that's exactly it. So now, let's do this. SSH Ansible at 10.175.4.156. Says it changed it. And it did. It put it in there. You can see it right here. So it's there. So now let's see. This is kind of what I'm curious about now. What if we take present and move it to absent? Will it remove that static route? That's what I'm curious about. And there's only one way to find out, because we have a lab and we can do whatever we want in it. Nobody's going to yell or complain. There it goes. I think it just took it out. It did. No IP route. So there you go. Present means put it in. Absent means take it out. That's awesome. I like that. Okay. We have time. Because we talked about this, I'm going to go back to this real quick. We're going to go into... that one doesn't have it. Is anything on here configured with IPv6? I don't think it is. Okay. I'm going to configure one interface back and forth between these two and just show you that using a /126 prefix on both ends, you can ping across it. As long as you can ping across it, you can unicast to it. So I'm just going to do this as an example so it's there. So let's do this. Config T IPv6 unicast. And then what I want to do is see where I'm going here. So we're going to go 1118. Which is local and remote on remote. Corp1 dist. I don't want to do that. That'll get me all confused. 240, 172, 16. 240:1/126. Now the thing that kind of sucks about this is when we do this, this one interface is going to match up based on the way that we're trying to match our IP addressing, right? And that's fine, but the problem is here, this side is 2. Well, now we know we can't use 2. We have to use 3 because this is 2 is the anycast address. IPv6 unicast. Okay. IPv6 address 2001 DB8, 172 to, whoops, 40. 16. Hey, that was a chevron. Did you see it? 243/126, okay? And it's there. Ping IPv6. I'm gonna pull this whole address in here, and we're gonna ping 1 going down the other link. And it pings. Woohoo! Okay, now we're gonna take this here as well. We'll go back to this device, ping IPv6. And there we go. So we ping both ways. So you take the unicast address out of it, you solve the entire problem, right? That's what we're looking for. And I would have felt really bad if I didn't actually show you that, because we talked about it. And then you'd come back and look at it and be like, you're full of crap, man. How do I know you actually did that? It worked. So now you know it works. Awesome. Again, remember, the forums are going read-only on October 1st. They're working out how to kind of keep the community connected right now. We're migrating to a new forum platform. I think there's some nuances internally going on with that and with the vendors. So they're trying to sort that out. We don't want to leave everybody in a lurch. So we are working on that. We will get there. 100,000% promise. I've sent some suggestions to Alan about some different things that we could use, which may also help. So we'll look at that. And then next week, I think, Making Tech Sense has been here every week, and he's really been a great fan and has some great ideas. And I think next week what we're going to do is we're going to focus on Smart Zone, and we're going to focus on starting to bring all of the ICXs into Smart Zone so that they can be managed that way. I was really hoping that the Ansible piece would allow me to upgrade everything so that I could, because I have to upgrade to a certain version to make them manageable. Maybe I'll talk to Barath and those guys tomorrow and see if they have a beta version of the module that would work for TFTP. And I'll be their guinea pig and test it for them. And if it works and it upgrades everything, great, because then we can just go in and pull everything into Smart Zone. I'd most likely do it during the live stream to upgrade everything, and then we could look at getting Smart Zone ready while the upgrades are happening, because I know that takes a little bit longer. So we'll look at that. So I think that's going to be the plan next week, and then we're going to start to move into more of the wireless stuff. AP stuff will start to migrate off of Zone Director into Smart Zone. So a lot of good stuff coming. Yeah, so look forward to that. And as always, I can't thank you guys enough for coming and joining. Remember, as always, ruckuslive@comscope.com. We check that email address. I check it every day. And if you have suggestions or things you want to see, or if you just like sending hate mail because you're bored, go for it. So again, thanks everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you next week. And take care. Talk to you soon.